Mark Twain once visited the Holy Land, and it was a lovely night, so he decided to take his wife out on a boat trip in the Sea of Galilee. And he asked the man how much it would cost, and the man, presuming it was a rich American, said $25. And as he walked away, Mark Twain was heard to say, "No wonder Jesus walked." But you know, behind the joke is the notion that we know what is possible and what is impossible, and maybe that's why we have problems with miracles. Robert Fulgham, in one of his books, tells the story of a primary school that decided to put on the story of Cinderella. Now, there's a lot of parts in the play, but all the wee girls wanted to be Cinderella, but finally they were all given a part except one person, and it was a boy, and his name was Norman. And the teacher said, "Norman, I wonder what you're going to be." And Norman said, "I think I'll be the pig." The teacher said, "Well, Norman, there is no pig in the story of Cinderella." But Norman said, "Well, there is now." Now the teacher knew it would be daft to argue with him, so she left it to Norman to decide what part he would play. As it turned out, the pig went everywhere that Cinderella went, and did whatever Cinderella did. Norman had nothing to say, but when things were serious, he was serious. When things were happy, he was happy. And when things looked difficult, he looked anxious. But he began to fill the stage with his presence. And at the end of the programme, when the princess was carried away by her handsome prince to live happily ever after, Norman actually stood up on his hind legs and barked. Now the teacher said, "Look, Norman, even if there is a pig in the story, pigs don't bark." And Norman said, "Well, this one does." Now you can imagine what happened in the night of the performance. There was a standing ovation at the end for the pig. Word got around and people were calling up the teacher and saying, "We hear you've got this Cinderella thing on, and what's so special about it?" And she would say, "Well, there's a barking pig in it." And the person on the other end of the phone would say, "But there is no barking pig in the story of Cinderella." And the teacher would say, "There is now." I think Jesus would like Norman and his talking pig. He was a wee chap who wouldn't let other people set the boundaries. He was going to be what he was going to be, no matter how daft it may seem to others. You know, one thing I love about the gospel story is that the disciples come over as ordinary, just like you and me. You know, I love Peter. He thought more with his heart than he did with his head, but Jesus loved Peter. Even though he often put his foot in it, even though he tried to walk on water on one occasion and nearly drowned, Jesus loved him and saw beyond his impulsive nature. He saw him as a man who was willing to take a risk for his faith. Do you ever think the Good Samaritan became good by playing it safe? No, he took a risk. He could have given a whole clatter of reasons why it would be wiser to walk on by rather than help this fellow. But he plunged right in. Peter could have stayed in the boat, and I wouldn't be talking to you about him today. Now and again we could be a little more like him, committed, wholehearted in our attitude to life, to our relationships, to our faith, and indeed to our belief. Thank you for joining with me today.
Let's now sing that blessing to each other. May God's blessings surround you each day.